to another, raping and pillaging, and having no accountability. What we have to have is personal accountability, and then we need less laws. The more laws you have, the less free you are.
Well, Ayn Rand had that. Ayn Rand had that absolutely right in Atlas Shrugged. She said the government has no control over individuals, but they have to. So they have to make us into criminals. They have to pass enough laws that you can't walk down the street without breaking one.
And that's pretty dang. I'd say that's where we're at already, wouldn't you? I mean, right now we're having unregulated thoughts because we're having this conversation, you know, and it's just become patently ridiculous, and people, I believe, are smart enough to make their own decisions about what they want to eat, how they want to use their water. It's their water if they caught it in a rain barrel or not. Everything doesn't belong to the elitists who think that they can control everybody, and we have to just assert ourselves and stand for what's right. We know what's right. You don't go and take poison and dump it in your neighbor's well. That's a crime. That harms somebody. But if you have some silt that runs off of your garden plot, that's not a crime, is it? I mean, it's just patently ridiculous that, you know, they're saying that the water is something, literally what falls from the sky is something that they have control over.
They want control over everything, and it's the whole antithesis of freedom. But,
right.
But you know, we think we elect people to go to Washington to represent us. It doesn't feel to me, and possibly to any of the so-called Tea Parties out there, that they're doing that. They're not representing us. They are doing something that may be good for the world, for the UN, for the global government. And as far as I'm concerned, the global government is of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers, and they don't really give a shit about people.
No, they don't. No. Well, I think you're right. I mean, I haven't been represented at all. If they were representing me, all they'd be doing would be repealing laws.
That would be the best function a Congress could go. You know, I mean, my God, it cost us $50,000 a year to put somebody in jail for smoking a little bit of pot.
Right.
And Governor Johnson pointed out that we've got more people in prison in America than per capita than any communist country, including Red China, with 3 times our population.
That's because it's a business.
It is. The prisons are a business now. They're private property. I mean, Arizona even advertised a few years back, we make more than license plates. Yeah, we make brooms. We compete on a number of levels with private business. So we're doing exactly what we've accused China of doing, and that's using slave labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're doing that, and it's becoming more and more commonplace. We've got all of these private companies contracting to guard the prisons and all of this kind of stuff. We've got Blackwater, XE, whatever you want to call it, private mercenaries, private police forces, all of these things, they're operating, quote unquote, in a government capacity. But if you look at the history of law, it's all predicated upon Yahweh's law, which didn't have prison. It had restoration or restitution and death. Those were the penalties. It wasn't, you know, here, go to prison for 15 years. Those were your choices. If you stole something, you had to restore the person to beyond their original capacity.
That's right. And you know, if you rape or kill my daughter, I'll save the county a lot of money, you know?
Right, exactly. You know, and we've gotten this idea that by putting people into prison, you can reform them, and that might work in a very, very small percentage of the cases, but the recidivism rate for prison is huge. I don't recall what it is, but the last time I looked, I thought it was about 80%. You know, and it's not working. I mean, what we are doing isn't working, and as you mentioned before, it's like, look at history. What has been done in controlling the food and controlling people's ability to use their God-given resources is happening now. So what we can do about that is educate people as much as we possibly can about what actually sustains them and get them involved in providing for themselves instead of going to the grocery store and paying somebody else to provide for them. And get people empowered and taking responsibility for themselves and their family and have personal accountability. You know, if I want to sell something to my neighbor and it's bad, he knows right who he got it from.
That's right.
There's accountability there. And willful negligence is a crime. I mean, if I sell something say I were to butcher a steer or something, and I loaded that sucker up with antibiotics and, you know, whatever to make it to make him grow faster, and then my neighbor's getting sick because of my product, that's my responsibility.
Right.
And I'm at fault. But what we have now is we have so many layers of industry and bureaucracy between those who actually are producing something, if in food or in any kind of product, that we have lost all accountability. And everything has to be, you know, done through the courts, where it's like, if I were to sell my neighbor a gallon of milk that was bad, then he knows where he got it from. And if I sold him eggs and he got sick, it'd be, well, I'm not going to buy eggs from you anymore.
In New York, they have gone in and raided farmers in Pennsylvania because they delivered raw milk in New York.
Now, this is becoming quite commonplace. I've got several articles up on News with Views about some of these issues. But farm raids, food buying co-op raids, shutting down small businesses. Morningland Dairy here in Missouri was recently shut down. They've been having to dump their milk for a month because they shut down their cheese plants. It's happening everywhere. And people need to be aware that food is the new money. And food is also a controlled substance, Clay. It is being totally controlled, and what they're selling you in the grocery store, this genetically modified stuff, is extremely dangerous, in my estimation. From what I'm able to get from it, it's really dangerous.
Doreen, the rats won't eat genetically modified corn. Pigs won't eat genetically modified corn.
If they're given a choice.
If they're given a choice, yes.
Right. And people are being poisoned by this anonymous, industrialized, toxic swill food supply system. And, I mean, it is happening. It's not something that's going to happen. It's currently happening. And unless they know it and decide to do something differently, that's what's going to happen. And it's just going to get worse. We've got so many, like, low-level diseases. I mean, everybody's got some kind of syndrome anymore, right? You know, we're all sick because we're being fed swill. And why are we being fed swill? Because we've lost our ability to sustain our farms and to keep family farms functioning at a level that will allow them to stay in business.
Doreen, so you have just in that short little period there, you have just illustrated the whole reason that I started the idea of Liberty Villages, and why I say that's really our only answer. I mean, we didn't even touch on Codex Alimentarius. They want you to have to go to a doctor to get a prescription for vitamin C.
Right.
Can't
it took
just
the
eat an
FDA
orange.
30 years to figure out that vitamin C actually was helpful in countering the common cold. So you know,
I don't take any vaccinations. I haven't taken any medications since they let me out of the hospital 6 years